ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Megan and Jason van Genderen.
Good morning. Oh, you all look bright-eyed from up here, actually. I thought it was a bit of a quiet room, but you're all good.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you, Diane, and thank you for that lovely welcome as well, Craig. We're really thrilled to be here. We're really honoured to be able to share our story with more people. So thank you so much for having us.
Now, of course, as Craig said, we're here to share our story and our particular journey that we embarked on. But if you'll indulge me, before we do that, I would love to look at a bit of a schematic look at caring for the ages and why caring for the ages really does need to be on the tip of our tongues right now. So we're going to go through a few numbers. Stay with me. We're going to start on the stats and then we're going to start getting in the emotional stuff. Who's heard of this? Who's heard of the silver tsunami? Has no one heard of the silver tsunami? A couple of you have. Okay. We better know what it is because it's coming and it's coming really fast. We're all part of an ever-ageing population, as we know. And if you have read anything about the silver tsunami, one of the countries it speaks of very clearly at the moment is Japan. Japan is one of our first developed countries to experience the difficulties of having an ageing population. And if we think about Japan in a global scale, Japan is the world's third largest economy. It's big. But their population is decreasing. And it's not just decreasing this year, it's been decreasing gradually for 12 consecutive years. And in fact, in 2022, twice as many people died as were born in Japan. Has anyone heard of the age pyramid or seen a diagram of the age pyramid? This is the age pyramid for Japan, starting in 1950, then a snapshot at 2000, and then a forecast for 2050. Now, if we look back at the 1950s, baby boomer era, the typical age pyramid shows the growth of the young at the bottom of the pyramid and then the ever-dwindling apex going to the top, representing our age population. But look what's happening in Japan. Look what's happening. That age pyramid is turning itself on its head. And Japan's population currently is 125 million people. By 2070, it's projected to be 87 million. That's a 31% drop in that nation's population. 31%, that's huge. And in 60 years' time, there's actually going to be more 75-year-olds in Japan than any other age group. Their whole social construct is going to change. You think about them as a nation. Their workforce is going to change. Their defence system, their capacity to defend themselves is going to change. Their health system, their education, everything changes with a big shift in population like that. But guess what? They're not alone. Globally, we're all stepping in a similar footpath. In fact, the chart that's on the screen now is the 2022 UN population reports, and it states that the world is going to reach a peak population in 2086 of 10.4 billion people. That's the most people that will ever be on Earth in 2086. And then guess what happens? Gradual decline. For the first time in our living history as a civilization, we have a negative growth rate of population after 2086. And our median age will gradually increase everywhere around the world. Bulgaria, Lithuania, Latvia, Ukraine, Serbia, even Greece, Poland, Italy are all experiencing negative growth rate now in their populations already. So an ageing population, if we think about it, is very scary for good reason.
I guess as we get older and as there's more of us getting older, that we're going to be immersed in so many more of these, older diseases and chronic diseases and age-old diseases. And one of those is absolutely going to be dementia. And is there people in this room that have had, experiences with dementia in their family? Yeah, most of you.
We had a number at our table last night. We were sitting there. We were just people either side of us affected by dementia.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're not alone. And here are some really staggering statistics around dementia as well. I don't know if you've heard in the media lately, but it is now the leading cause of death for women in Australia. And it's the second leading cause of death for males in Australia. And pretty soon that number's going to amalgamate and it will be the leading cause of death for Aussies. There's currently 400,000 people living with dementia in Australia right now. And in 30 odd years, that number is set to double. So there's going to be 800,000 people living with dementia. Currently, there's 1.5 million carers, non-formal and formal roles of carers looking after people living with dementia. So if we think about in 35 years, you know, that the 400,000 is going to double into 800,000. Does that mean that 1.5 million carers, is that going to need to double? Is that going to be 3 million plus? And how do we possibly deal with that? Of the 400,000 people that are living with dementia, 2 in 3 are actually living at home. They're your neighbours. They're around us. And there was one such neighbour.
Was my mum.
Was your mum?
Her name is Hendrika Johanna van Genderen, good Dutch name. Emigrated out to Australia in the 50s with my dad, and was just a beautiful contributor to her community. She was a wonderful matriarch to the family, huge heart, very private people, but very, very giving people in their community. We lost my dad in 2011 to lung cancer, and my mother managed quite well and quite independently for a number of years after that. Eventually, loneliness started taking hold. She was living by herself in this home she couldn't manage so well anymore. She was starting to have a few falls. We noticed some cognitive decline occurring, and so I took Mum to get the relevant tests, and we discovered that she was diagnosed with both Alzheimer's disease as well as vascular dementia. So that, I guess, forced us as a family to have some difficult conversations, as I'm sure it's a situation that's caused some difficult conversations in your homes and your communities as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And she was still, like we're sort of, you know, using that statistic of there's still, 400,000 people, two out of 3 of those 400,000 people are still living at home. She was still very independent. You know, she could still clean her house and cook for herself and things like that. And we didn't want to disarm those beautiful independencies that she still could manage to maintain. It really highlighted for us just how invisible dementia can be as well. You can come across as really quite okay because you're able to do lots of the things that you're used to doing. But we really wanted to lean into this scenario and this experience about thinking about how dementia could actually be a bit of a teacher for our family. Like, what could we learn from this experience? If we were going to dive into this and we were going to do this wholeheartedly, what could we actually learn? And I think one of the biggest things that we realised really early on is that it wasn't, a native kind of step to take as a family. From a Western perspective, we're not really used to bringing our elders into our family. Our houses aren't designed for it. Our jobs aren't designed for it. The nuclear family really isn't designed for caring for somebody.
Irony in an ageing population too.
Yeah, and so what we realised was, thankfully, we both work for ourselves, so we had that flexibility around work. You've got 2 older kids from another marriage, so they were sort of in and out, and we had younger kids that were, under our wings all the time. So there was an ability for us to be able to be flexible and to push and pull our work and to care for someone who was ageing and with a disability. And I guess, we approached it with how are we going to learn and what are we going to get out of this experience? And everything, Oma moved in with us from 2017, and for the first couple of years, everything kind of worked really well. We did have a baby in that time as well, and everything worked quite well. We were getting home care packages in, so we had carers coming in to help us and things like that as well. But when, March 2020 happened and lockdowns sort of started to happen, that's when a few cracks started to appear. It was obviously, for everybody, it was obviously really uncharted territory. We were sort of trying to deal with our own demons of how do you deal with small business in a pandemic and homeschool and breastfeed a baby and all sorts of things. And there was some cracks starting to appear at that stage.
Yeah, and we could see very clearly that Oma couldn't cope in that environment. For her, the whole idea of COVID was just a conversation we had to have every 5 minutes. Couldn't understand that, let alone lockdown. So there was a lot of. She was starting to get depressed. She was starting to get anxious, and the whole reason we brought her into our family nucleus was sort of dissolving in front of our eyes. That care seemed to not be working as well anymore. So we knew we needed to do something. We needed to try and create a lockdown-less world for her. In some way and help change the narrative around what was going on. So I remember Oma had gone to bed one night and we hatched a bit of a plan as a family. We sat down and we said, what can we do to help reinstate something in her world that she enjoys doing? Like, what is a routine that we can bring back? And we remembered one of her favourite outings during the week, whether it was us taking her or one of the at-home, the care support workers that came, was she loved going out every Tuesday, 10 o'clock, to Baddo Bay Village on the Central Coast, to Coles and doing her shopping. And she knew the layout of the shop. Despite her dementia, she knew exactly where to get everything. That was her thing. That was her outing. She looked forward to that every week, right? But in lockdown, of course, we took that away. You can't go out. So as a family, we said, well, why can't we try and do something like that at home? Why don't we try and reinstate at least the effect of going shopping, but at home? We didn't know what we're doing. We're just hacks. We're giving this a go. So we thought, okay, no formal training. Let's give this a crack. I'm going to play the video for you. How old was Levi then? He was 15 or something.
14,
he filmed it on his phone, and this is how it rolled. I'd like to play it for you. So we've been living in home isolation now for 4 weeks. Something that's probably a little bit unique to our family makeup is that my mum lives with us. She's 87. She has Alzheimer's and vascular dementia. So her routine has really been thrown, and just trying to make sense of what the week is just blown to pieces for her. So one of her big things that she hangs her week on is her weekly shopping trip. So we can't take her to the shops anymore. But what we thought we'd do is we'd open up a supermarket at home, meet our friendly staff. So I'm going to zip up to the granny flat, which is attached to our house, and bring her down and see what she thinks of our family supermarket.
Shopping at home?
Yeah, we've made a shopping centre at home, especially for you. So do you want to grab your bag and I'll come and take you shopping?
But at home?
Yeah. It's a bit hard because we can't take you to the shops. So we thought we'd bring the shops to you. Okay? Just for fun. Here we go.
Oh.
So we've got your walker. Come over here. We've got your walker, so we can use this to put your shopping in. We've got your shopping bags. Okay. Now, you've got your shopping list. We've got the supermarket at home. So look, welcome to Coles. We've got Megan from Coles and Evie. Yeah, and we've got Art on the register at the end, ready to help when you've done your shopping. Okay, let's go into the shops and see what we need. Oh, it looks good, doesn't it?
You have to take a film off.
You think? We are taking a little video of this, just to show people that we can still have fun doing shopping at home, okay?
Yeah.
So we've got your list here.
Yes.
So let's start and have a look what you need.
Bananas.
Bananas. So let's back up a little bit.
Yes,
Have we got any bananas? Excuse me, madam, have we got any bananas today? Nice and fresh ones?
7 bananas left.
Only 7 bananas, okay. Well, we might take those, I think.
Yeah.
Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, I picked
We've
these.
got some nice fresh ones there.
I picked them
Good luck,
this
isn't
morning.
it?
I got frostbite.
Now, do we need cauliflower? Have a look on your list. Do you need...
Yes.
Oh, hang on, is cauliflower ticked? Cauliflower's not ticked, so we don't need it this week. So we'll leave that in the shop for someone else.
Oh, I got that too.
Yeah, we'll leave that in the shop for someone else.
3 kilos of potatoes.
Yeah.
Special Forester's Beach sand potatoes.
Oh, wow, I love rice.
Now it says you need
I have
2.
that every morning.
Someone else have. What are these ones?
Oh.
What if we just take the 2 we need and then we leave the rest for other people?
Applesauce.
Yep, we got applesauce.
Oh,
Applesauce.
but do you need any chocolate? How many chocolate?
2?
2.
Yeah, and
We'll have a look. Do we need Easter eggs?
Yes.
Ah, this one's for the kids, eh?
Kids, yeah.
For the kids. Have you got some pork sirloin?
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. We'll take the whole pack.
Yes. Is it all my shopping?
Yeah, it looks like. So you're going to have to see Art on the cash register.
Yes.
Give him your card so you can pay for it and he'll give you a receipt. Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, darling.
Have a good day, madam.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's all. Oh, gee.
Did you like it?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got everything we need. So we've been to the shops today, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Shop for the whole week.
Mwah. You're welcome.
Lovely. Okay, but how did you get this together, Jason? Did you think of doing that? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, No,
Of course.
it is fantastic.
Thank you. Just so you know, little Artie is available for early apprenticeship for any customer service role you might be seeking. It was crazy, you know, that little thing we experienced, we shared it on Facebook, went to bed, like any other normal night. And you know when your phone just gets the notifications at night? I remember that thing just buzzing a lot during the night. And then looked at it the next day and it had just gone crazy. You know, here we were living in lockdown in this isolated little cabin fever house, doing this to try and bring some joy to mum. And then within a day we were fielding interviews with television networks right across the country, radio networks, we were doing live crosses. And then within a week we were getting invites, it had just gone around the world. And all of a sudden, you know, Good Morning America, The Late Late Show with James Corden, all these shows are like going, yes, we want to do, you know, stories. And so we had two choices, I think. We either just shut ourselves out from that and go, this is too weird and too crazy, and this is not what we intended to do. Let's just pretend it didn't happen and close the door. Or we could take that as an opportunity and say, maybe there's an appetite for a conversation here. Maybe this is a conversation that needs to be had. Maybe this is a welcome distraction during, you know, this COVID-heavy world we were living in, and maybe we should use this as an opportunity to become advocates for people needing care. And we decided to just dive in, and we went in with our head up, our heart out, and our eyes open. And that's the attitude we took with trying to share that story.
And we just kind of used our heart. We didn't really know what else to do. And I guess, being parents to younger children, we found that this notion of play, this scenario around play and playfulness was a tool that we could really use as a really disarming tool, a tool to be able to laugh at ourselves when life was getting really gnarly, and also a way that just within the intergenerations within our home, how everyone could be involved on the same level. And we noticed, because as the dementia sort of progressed within OMA, we noticed a lot of sundowners, and that's when behaviours of an afternoon become really serious and really scary. And we noticed that when we did use play and we infused more play, that those sundowners was definitely, you know, they could reduce or they could be less severe. So we just kept leaning in on play and being really and laughing at ourselves a lot. And it was infectious. It was something that we just
all the time.
kept up.
I will always lean into play. If you give me a task-driven thing or play, I'll do play every single time. Totally. It's just you can't help it, right? It's infectious. Look at that. Like, even with my mum, just putting one of those ridiculous filters on, you know, Instagram or whatever it was, and just playing with the camera. Not even posting it, but just playing. You know, who doesn't laugh when you see something like that? It's just, it diffuses the strangest of situations, you know, the power of play. Playfulness became our best medicine in many ways for approaching what we were doing. And we took that forward into everything we were doing at home as a family. Oma had been having more falls. So she wasn't able to really stand on her own 2 feet anymore and go and do her own thing. She loved my mum's Dutch, right? So it had to be a super clean house. So she knew if one leaf dropped on the driveway out the front, she'd be out there with a broom, sweep, sweep, sweep. Anyone else got Euro parents that's like that? They're just out there sweeping every leaf off the driveway. That's her. But she couldn't do it because she was too topsy-turvy. She'd fall a lot. So we discovered we could do gardening in a teacup. You know, we'd sit her down safely at a table, we'd get a teacup, and we do gardening in a macro sense. She still got to articulate and understand, you know, plant things and make things, but use fine motor skills, you know, different skills, still playing. I remember when we had to get her new clothes for winter and we couldn't take her to the shops. We were still in lockdown. So we got clothes in and you set up a little mobile, like a clothes boutique in one of our living areas. And you took Oma through and you said, okay, we're going to try on some clothes. And she used the bedroom as a dressing room, you know, all these sorts of things. We created instances where the whole family could partake.
Artie was back on the register.
He was back on the register. He loved that, loved that. We started a Facebook page called Oma's Applesauce, where we placed all our little videos, our little stories. We quickly amassed 142,000 followers on that page. People from all around the world, they were like going, you know what? This is a story that means something to me. This is the life that we're living as well. This gives me ideas. This gives me some hope. And at the same time, our video stories we lost count. After 100 million views, we stopped counting. That's how many times our videos got viewed. And as interest grew, I guess momentum was building the question was building whether we had a larger story to tell as well. Were we just going to be doing these little social media snippets, or was there something bigger in here maybe as a community that we could all learn from? So we did, and we made a film.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Jason being a filmmaker, so you engaged a team of people and created an amazing feature-length documentary called Everybody's Oma that hit our screens last year. And yeah, it was an idea that sort of started in 2020, and within 18 months the film was on our screens.
We premiered at the Sydney Film Fest last year, actually only a couple of weeks ago this time last year. And then we had another premiere at the Melbourne International Film Festival. We got nominated for an ACTA Award for Best Documentary as well. And then we opened in 83 cinemas around the country for an Aussie-made documentary. And I think we went into cinemas around another COVID wave that was going around. So getting people in the cinemas was actually really, really tricky, but we got them there. And it was so rewarding and so fulfilling because we had the opportunity to do a Q&A tour at the same time. And we tried to get to as many corners of the country as we could. And not just to see our film, we'd seen the film, we'd lived it, we didn't have to watch it again, but to meet people, to meet families, to meet people in community that intersected with that story and to talk to them. And that was an incredible experience. And
I think what we learned so much was we didn't realise the power of the people sitting in the room, and they were all, sort of carers, informal or formal, aged care workers, disability workers, ambulance officers, police officers, geriatricians, nurses. They were people who were involved in caring roles, and what we didn't realise is that they saw themselves on the screen, and their journey was validated by being able to watch our story, and that was something that really smacked us in the face that we didn't see coming, and we just felt so privileged to be able to provide that gift to so many people, I think.
But ironically, we had such an amazing, beautiful story to share. Ironically, we live in a really conflicted world around this sort of messaging, and people's picture of aged care is very much challenged, right? In fact, as an industry, I think we have a really hard task ahead of us, and that is to make the care industry attractive again. As a brand, it's a bit broken, and we need to work really, really hard to reinstate people's love and passion into why care is a worthwhile industry to step into.
Yeah, and I think if we look at again that lens where we were trying to make dementia our teacher and what we could learn, if you think about what we learn in a caring role, we just learnt so much about our own identities and so much about our boundaries and how far we were actually going to push those boundaries, which really became like this. We learned how much compassion we actually had, deep down in here, and just how rewarding it is to just be able to look after somebody else and see them thrive. And there's no word for that. It's just it's absolutely, it's just in here. And we cannot believe the amount of, with our home care package, and then when Oma did finally move into permanent residential care, we just couldn't believe the connections we made with just all these amazing souls who worked within the caring industry, and that really sticks out, that there were just so many, so many, and you just wanted to hold on to them, you never wanted to let them go.
But the sad reality, of course, is that aged care isn't often presented as a very desirable career choice. And this is not to diminish the necessary reforms and the challenges that the industry has had overall and the obstacles it's had to face. But to temper that, I can wholeheartedly say, and I speak for both of us, we've never met a person working in the care sector that didn't step into those shoes for exactly the right reason, that didn't have huge hearts and a will to create change. And we need to try and hear their voices. Right? We need to hear their voices amidst the headlines that are stifling us like these. Again, like I said, it's not negating the changes that the industry has had to go through, but it's about we need to create supportive other narratives around the challenges that the industry has faced as well. And it's up to us to help change that, because these can't be the only narratives we hear and see when we think of the care sector. If we need to change the way we think about this, we need to also change the way we see and say it, right? That's the only way we're going to create that change.
And so, like I said, we just met so many incredible souls, and we call them angels because some of them were literally sent from heaven. They were just incredible. And then when Oma did move into permanent residential care, there was this lifestyle coordinator, and I'm doing it every time I talk about this woman, I just start crying. Malou, she was just incredible, and she knew Oma's love for gardening, and Oma moved into permanent care just as New South Wales went into that 100-day lockdown in 2021, and so Malou was our sort of our gateway, and she would take Oma to this particular hibiscus tree every morning and pick a hibiscus flower. And so she was just integral in Oma's wellbeing. And the facility manager at this residential aged care, Deanna, she would let us sneak Oma's cat into the facility for days at a time, and that just lifted Oma so much. So when we couldn't be there physically, her beloved cat could, and then Opal, the facility, ended up adopting the cat as well, which was just an incredible. She could have easily just said, no, that's too hard, and she just said, no, I'm going to make that happen for you. I can absolutely make that happen for you.
And I think what's astounding about that is no matter how inflexible the system, people made the difference. People always made the difference for us. And people would bend and let the rules wane a little bit and let things happen and make such a difference, not just for my mum, not just for Oma, not just for us, but for the whole family. Everyone that was connected to her made a difference through these people that we met.
And so, on reflection, I mean, what did we learn through being a carer, and the skills that that are now part of us? Like, it's changed the landscape of who we are forever. And so much of that is around patience, and really being present and really meeting someone where they're at in that moment and not worrying about all the peripheral. And we just learnt that kindness is just absolutely everything. And then when you give it out, and it does come bouncing back to you, and you see the world in a different way, for sure. So it's just so important that we celebrate these carer stories and talk about those stories and empower others with those stories about how you can make a difference in the lives of the people that you're caring for.
Totally. President Ronald Reagan said these words on screen right now. I'd like you just to take a moment and take these words in. We can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone. Never a truer word said. This is from a president who, towards the end of his time in the Oval Office, also lived with dementia. And in fact, his security detail would go out every morning with a bag of dried leaves and put them on the driveway, and he would go out and he'd sweep those leaves every day as part of his routine, never knowing that those leaves were placed there for him every day to sweep. It goes to show that even the biggest and the best of us are going to need care one day. And more of us are going to need that care. So let's all work together intently and intentionally to make more meaningful conversations about the care space. Whether that's care for our young, whether that's care for our disabled, whether that's care for people living with cognitive decline and dementia.
But sharing stories and celebrating our carers is absolutely one of those ways to do this. So we'd love to put this back to you. How are you going to change that narrative, and how are you going to be able to attract more beautiful people into such a rewarding and valuable career in the care sector? So thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.